This is the story of our protagonist Yu, whose mission every morning is to avoid other humans like he's on a spy mission in a Sherlock Holmes series. Surprisingly, he wasn't always this way. He actually used to have a best friend he secretly adored as a kid. But the day she had to move away, he completely blew it, losing her contact info like it was a set of keys in the couch cushions. He cried harder than a gamer getting banned for lag switching, and after that, he was never quite the same. Flash forward 10 years, and Suzukaze Yu's now a high school senior waking up to yet another day of introverted isolation. He'd love to break out of this pattern, but his courage level is about as sturdy as an expired wet tissue. To avoid bumping into people on his way to school, he chooses lonely routes that look straight out of a horror movie setting, places no sane person would venture alone. When he finally gets to school, he has a secret hideout spot where he hangs out to dodge social interactions. As he reaches his little secret place in the city, he unexpectedly stumbles upon an elegant girl who looks like she just walked out of a fairy tale. And the surprising thing is, she is wearing the same uniform as his school. In his mind, she's basically royalty, and the two of them, looking like they come from completely different universes. And Yu, being Yu, decides to sit next to her. Just as he does, a gust of wind sends everything flying. She's still sitting there, like a rock, like her tea's more important than anything else. Then she fixes her hair and starts talking to him like they have been married for the last 10 years. For Yu, this is suspicious. People never talk to him unless it's about his absurd KDA ratio, so he's pretty sure she's plotting something. She casually greets him, and Yu turns beet red, barely managing a reply. Turns out she's a new student who got lost on her way to school, so she just sat down and had breakfast, and here he thought he had antisocial superpowers. Trying to scare her a bit, he warns she'll be late if she doesn't hustle, but she doesn't seem to care. Instead, she just goes, "Can you show me the way?" and grabs his hand. Yu's immediate reaction is pure Disney princess. He freaks out, yanking his hand away like she just asked him to prom. He blurts out that he'd already like someone like he's under oath or something. I mean, dude, if you're that smitten, maybe invest in a sorry taken t-shirt. Anyway, he spirals into a flashback about his childhood crush. They were inseparable, right up until she left at the end of the summer. Only later did you realize she'd just been vacationing in town. Yep, his great love story was basically a Hallmark movie cut short by her return flight. Little Yu was left totally heartbroken when his childhood friend moved away without a trace, leaving him crying alone as he just watched the saddest episode of Demon Slayer. So here he is, daydreaming about his tragic, zombie-fueled romance while a tea-sipping stranger tries to get him to school. Fast forward to the present, and Yu realizes the new girl has gotten way too close, practically invading his personal space to figure out who he's crushing on. She's all teasing smiles, leaning in as if she's about to discover his deepest secrets until Yu can't take it anymore and decides to make a run for it. But since she has zero clue where she's going, she's got no choice but to chase after him. It turns into a full-blown sprint like it's the Dead by Daylight World Championships, with much more awkwardness. She shows him his drop-dead phone with zero power that he left behind before running like a chicken. She is still running after him like a ghost would chase after you on a lonely dark road. After a solid running stretch, she suddenly trips and face plants, right on top of him. She smirks devilishly and is thrilled to have caught him, but Yu just groans, giving in as he's been defeated. She calls him single-minded, hard-headed, and a bit bothersome, but she can't deny there's something about him she doesn't dislike. He blushes like a tomato at this compliment and agrees to show her the way to school. But then he puts on a serious face and insists she stays back, as if it's like a no-girls-allowed club, except he's the only member, and his main qualification is being awkward. He notices that the girl's smile resembles hers, sending him down memory lane. Just then, the girl stops, realizing she's forgotten something, and turns back to find it. He clearly calls it troublesome to find a lost item. The girl, however, is relentless, insisting she can't just leave her lost item behind, stressing that it will weigh on her heart. While it would be bothersome to look for it, it would be even worse to give up and live the rest of her life haunted by that missing treasure. She's clearly opting for the lesser of two bothers, which is a pretty smart strategy, if you ask me. At this point, he notices she's limping like she's auditioning for the role of a zombie in a film. He tries to stop her, but still, she keeps walking ahead in search of whatever it is she lost. Watching her determination sparks something in Yu. He realizes he wants to be just as straightforward and honest as she is. It hits him deep like a heartfelt lyric, but let's face it, this isn't a BTS song. He glances at her, which sparks memories of his super hot childhood friend. But before we dive into that tale, we need to mention this dude from elementary school who would definitely win a gold medal in the world's best bullying championship. This guy made it his mission to keep you firmly planted as the class loner, which is pretty much how he stumbles upon the girl who's about to flip his life upside down. With a sudden burst of energy, she grabs his hand and leaves him flustered like a deer caught in headlights. She introduces herself as Karin with her eyes sparkling with mischief. She insists he shows her some fun stuff around town. Now, Yu isn't exactly a tour guide. He feels about as confident as a cat at a dog show. Instead, he takes her to his secret spot. When they arrive, Karin's jaw drops in awe at the view. Yu tries to downplay it, muttering that it's his favorite spot but isn't sure how interesting it really is. But then she beams at him and declares it their secret spot from now on. It starts the fireworks and Yu's heart feeling like he just handed over the keys to a treasure chest. He even carries a charm they got together back then. Now, back to the main storyline. Yu realizes he wants to be as open about his feelings as little Karin is. He doubles down on his resolve, vowing that he never wants to regret his choices. With newfound determination, he sprints toward that real-life Disney princess, who looks like she's about to turn into a caterpillar with how slowly she's crawling. Instead of helping her search for the item, he scoops her up like she's his long-lost bride. Talk about a plot twist. The girl starts blushing like a tomato and tells him to let go, insisting she can still walk. But Yu is feeling heroic today. He declares that he's already made his choice. He figured it would be a bit bothersome to leave her all alone, plus he finds her willingness to follow her heart pretty admirable. She lets out a giggle, playfully calling him a tacky prince. Moments later, our Prince Yu's pretty scuffed, and he's panting as the only muscles he's been building come from his gaming controller, so he barely manages to lift her. Still, pride fuels him to drag her up the stairs to his favorite spot, panting like he's finished a shonen power-up sequence. When they finally reach the top, she finds her lost item, a charm that looks just like Yu's. She smiles at him, then grabs his hand and kisses it in thanks. He practically jumps out of his skin because now, in his mind, he's covered in the ultimate enemy, girl germs. As she keeps thanking him, he realizes maybe his day didn't turn out so bad after all, but he's definitely going to need some cootie removal later. Yu notices her slipping the charm into her bag, and it's exactly the same as his. Without thinking, he blurts out the name of the girl he's been low-key in love with for 10 long years, Karin Machihashi. Yep, full government name and all, as if he's reading her ID out loud. A moment of silence hangs in the air until she softly says, "Yu." That's right, it's him. He replies with a grin that could light up a whole stadium. There's silence. And then, the girl, who is, of course, actually Karin, just stares, speechless as she puts two and two together. This is the same Suzukaze Yu from her childhood. Then she bursts out laughing, because let's be honest, it was pretty obvious he hadn't changed at all. Both of them crack up over how hilariously awkward this reunion is. From that day 10 years ago, Yu started praying and never stopped. He kept wishing for the day they would meet again so he could finally share his feelings with Karin. After overcoming a tidal wave of emotions, Yu practically flings himself into her arms, letting all those years of pent-up feelings flow out. He even cries a little, because a 10-year crush deserves a dramatic moment or two. After their heartfelt moment, he scoops her up again, and they make a break for it to school, sprinting as if their lives depend on it. Once they're in class, the teacher announces that 2 new exchange students will be joining. And of course one of them is Karin, who's now waving at him with a big grin. Our boy Yu is once again blushing and seems to be on cloud 9. But a plot twist happens when the teacher tells the girls to write their names on the board. The other girl introduces herself as Karin Machihashi. Yep, spelled exactly the same. What the hell is going on? Who launched their shadow clone ninjutsu? Maybe it was Naruto. Yu just stares blankly from the back of the room, thinking that the super shy and princess-like girl was his childhood friend this entire time. But somehow it turns out there are 2 Machihashi Karins. Bro got one for the price of 2. Is this some kind of summer clearance sale? Both of them introduce themselves, and the Karin 2.0 is super energetic and friendly, practically running a stand-up routine for the class. Meanwhile, the original Karin sits there looking like she just got her identity stolen. Yu still in the back wondering if he is signed for some kind of horror double film. After a few classes, lunchtime finally rolls around. The two Karens are blending in seamlessly with the other students, making small talk and trading laughs. However, Yu's keen ears pick up on their conversation, and it hits him. Both girls share the exact same name and last name. It's like a plot twist in a mystery novel. And the mystery is which one's OG Karin and which one's the new. The OG is convinced that Karin too is up to no good, possibly trying to impersonate her, and she's definitely not thrilled at the thought of the other girl swiping Yu away. With a hint of paranoia, she warns Yu to keep his guard up because, let's be real, Karin too has already made off with her entire social circle. Unfazed, Yu heads off to the vending machine for a refreshing drink, and his mind is wondering about the stark resemblance between both of the Karens. But on his way, he bumps right into the Karin too, who lights up like a Christmas tree upon seeing him. She clings to him like a leech with no intention of letting go sooner. With a grin, she excitedly admits finding his name on the class register, recalling their old times together. But for him, it's like she's throwing a surprise party, and he's just the unwilling guest. He gets away from her, mentioning she might have interpreted his name, but her excitement is at its peak as if she got her favorite item on sale. She wonders if our boy is happy to see her once again. He can't shake the feeling that she might just be a paid actor, sent to confuse him with her bright smile and bubbly charm. He wonders if he's the unsuspecting star of some bizarre reality show. Just as the situation heats up, Karin 1 leaps onto the scene like a superhero ready to save the day. She doesn't mince words, bluntly telling Karin 2 to back off from Yu because she's clearly the imposter and should be vote-kicked like a bad player in an online game. Meanwhile, the extroverted girl raises an eyebrow, questioning if cosplaying is even allowed in this school. Not one to waste time on a verbal match, the other girl decides to cut to the chase and asks Karin 2 if she has been carried up in princess style in any recent episodes. Yu, sensing the plot thickening like a bad soup, prepares himself by drenching in holy water and reaches for his divine charm, hoping it will reveal his true childhood friend. However, to his utter dismay, both girls pull out identical charms, which look suspiciously like they were purchased from Alibaba. Now he and the princess-like girl are just left scratching their heads in confusion, like two dogs trying to figure out a magic trick. In a last-ditch effort to uncover the truth, Yu starts shooting out secret questions like a pop quiz. But sadly, both girls remember a summer encounter where he was alone and getting bullied. Desperate to settle this once and for all, the shy girl boldly decides to check if Karin 2 has a similar mole on the inside of her right thigh, which only leaves Karin 2 looking even more perplexed. And yes, she has the mole too. Maybe these two are lost twins, separated at birth, and they end up in the same class. Just as Yu contemplates this theory, his charm suddenly takes flight. At first, it looks like it's gearing up for a showdown, but unfortunately, it crashes to the ground like a dramatic entrance gone wrong. Yu scratches his head, wondering if this is one of those classic anime moments where he's supposed to have a heartfelt chat with an enchanted object. So he gives it a shot. To his utter shock, the charm pulls out a note that reads, "Hello, Yu." After a moment, they dive into their session with the charm. It turns out this little trinket is a product of Yu's relentless prayers over the past decade. Seriously, he's been so bad that the very fabric of reality decided to bend a little and grant him not one, but 2 Karens. Meanwhile, the shy girl is still on high alert, convinced that the universe is playing a prank on her by throwing 2 girls with the same name into the mix. As it becomes clear, Yu's tears of longing over the years were so powerful that the charm figured, hey, 2 is better than 1. It's like ordering fries and getting a whole platter. Yu's feeling a bit bewildered by the whole situation and figures he could have handled meeting just 1 Karin, but from Charm's perspective, having both is like a strategic upgrade. Why settle for 1 when you can split her personality and double your options? Now he's in a real pickle, facing 2 Karens who are both the genuine article. It's like choosing between 2 of your favorite anime guys, Gojo or Sukuna. The charm, clearly enjoying the chaos, prompts him to pick which Karin he wants to hang out with, Karin 1 or the bright one. Instead of handing out a ring, one lucky girl gets a love necklace with Yu's name on it, while the other faces the ultimate exit, like getting snapped out of existence. No pressure, right? Yu, however, isn't about to play that game. He stands his ground, insisting that choosing just isn't fair. The charm doesn't want to add any pressure, but it would really appreciate an answer by the end of the school day. On the bright side, Yu realizes that, unlike his government tests, he only has two options to choose from. As the two Karens stick close to him, they head back to the classroom, and naturally the other students are buzzing with speculation. They wonder if these girls are twins. Yu feels the weight of the decision looming over him, considering it could determine his fated match, the love of his life. Meanwhile, in the gym, the tension is palpable. The two Karens aren't exactly best friends at this point, especially since one of them will have to vanish by the end of the day. The other students are catching on to the drama unfolding with the exchange students. Watching them bicker makes Yu realize he needs to get his act together and make a choice soon. He can't shake the feeling of impending danger if he doesn't make a decision. While in the background both Karens are still arguing and teasing each other. Back in class, he's sadly sitting in his still feeling confused over all this. Karin too notices how utterly lost he is and can't help but find the situation amusing. After all, who wouldn't laugh at a guy trying to choose between two of the hottest girls at school? With a bright smile, she takes his hand and drags him out of the school, ready for an adventure. He is screaming, wondering if this is gonna help. Feeling the weight of his predicament of losing both of them if he doesn't make any choice, Yu wonders if Karin too has any idea what to do and casually asks how she feels about the whole disappearing act. He sadly apologizes for making such a wish, to which she instantly interrupts him, reminding him that he wanted them after all. Getting a bit emotional, he admits his wish to meet her, to which admits that she just wants to get along and enjoy everything and that she likes her other half too. Just like Karin 1, she genuinely wants the best for Yu and insists that if he's not having fun, even the happiest moments won't mean much. After wrapping up their chat with a little course correction, the Karin 2 flashes him a bright smile. Yu thinks back to the ranting of Karin 1 and takes a moment to think about it. Finally reaching a decision, he speaks up to her, explaining he still wants some time to make his final choice. He runs away hoping to see her again, to which she gives a shy grin and starts running back to the classroom with him. As they reach the class, both Karens reunite and talk outside the classroom. The shy one is still ready to defend Yu to the death against the more assertive suitor, convinced that this whole situation is a slam dunk in her favor. She even claims she feels like an arm is disappearing every time she goes to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Karin too can't help but wonder why they seem to be at each other's throats as they all head toward the classroom together. She dramatically declares that the agony she's feeling is just as bad as when she's on her period, so the two Karens, who, let's be real, are technically the same person, should be able to work together to find a solution that doesn't end with anyone vanishing. Karin 1 realizes her feelings for Yu as the other Karen spells it out for her. At this point, Karin 2 is a bit amazed at how long it took for them to realize they're essentially talking to themselves. Seriously, they're like two sides of the same coin. She can't help but find it a little insane that they even considered splitting their personalities in half. Who knew it would turn into an episode of The Real World? Inner Conflict Edition. And just like that, it's time for the final showdown. Later at the rooftop, the charm takes flight again, not tripping over itself this time. It hands Yu a little note instructing him to take the hand of the girl he chooses. But just as things are getting spicy, the Karin 1 jumps in, insisting he pick the other Karin because she's the cuter one, way more sociable, and hey, she's got better hair too. She even goes the extra mile and jots everything down on a pros and cons list. Meanwhile, Karin 2 rolls her eyes, thinking the shy version must have gotten the short end of the stick. From her angle, Karin 1 got saddled with things like cute and sociable, while she ended up with hot, nice hair, and smells good. But they quickly set their competitive lists aside, and, in a rare moment of peace, both Karens start shedding tears, asking Yu to take care of the other Karin from now on. Seeing them both in tears, Yu feels a full-on panic attack incoming. This isn't how it's supposed to end. He practically screams, "No, this isn't how things are supposed to go down." In a flash of genius, inspired by binge-watching his favorite rom-coms, Yu realizes he's not stuck with the two basic options presented. Summoning every ounce of confidence he's ever had, he yells out his final decision. "I choose Machihashi Karin." Dramatically, he yanks both Karens toward him, declaring, "Both of them are just halves of the real Machihashi Karin." He stands firm as to him, they're both the same person and no way is he picking just one. With a hopeful grin, he remembers something he's always wanted to tell Karin, no matter the twist or turn, and he's finally got a shot to make that wish come true. Face to face with the two Karens, he finally tells them he's always been in love with her. After having a possibly unwise amount of courage, he even thanks the spirit for giving him the chance to meet both Karens at once, and he asks if they can stick around. The spirit, totally baffled, watches Yu plead his case. Our boy insists he's tired of carrying regrets, so he wants to make a choice he can genuinely be proud of. Just then, the spirit recalls the epic dedication of Yu's 10-year wish. Even when Yu had a cold, he made sure to pray daily for this moment. Tearing up a bit, the spirit floats down a little note with the words, "All right, as you wish." With the decision finally resolved, Yu, along with both Karens, couldn't be happier. And even if things somehow go south later, Yu's got it all figured out. He'd rather be split vertically than horizontally just to keep one half of his brain intact. With that concerning thought, the three start making their way down from the rooftop, and Yu can't help but declare his love for Karin once more. Both Karens, usually unflappable, blush so hard they look like a broken stoplight, and Yu finds it downright adorable. Adorable enough to make him teary-eyed. However, his ugly cry doesn't exactly thrill them, and they try not to look directly at it. As they all head home, Yu part ways with the girls, who turn out to be walking in the same direction. That's when Karin 1 makes a bit of a competition out of it, declaring that, no matter what, she was the first to meet Yu again, and that's a win that'll never change. Both girls walk off, only to realize with a jolt that they're living in the same house. The next day, Yu walks into school with the brightest grin, feeling like everything turned out better than he could have dreamed. But when the two Karens arrive in class, still blushing, they lean over in unison and ask him, would he come to their house after school today? We see two Karens casually asking him if he's coming over to their house after school. Apparently, when they go home, they stumbled upon the big surprise. They are a family. Hearing this, Yu's face is in all its awkward expressiveness. Earlier, we didn't actually get a look at their place, just saw the expressions on the Karens' faces when they first laid eyes on it, which pretty much screamed, "Wait, this is at our house." When the girls arrived home and were greeted at the door by none other than Mom, who's totally unfazed. Meanwhile, each Karin is arguing about whose house it actually is, until Mom just shrugs it off like, well, of course sisters would live together. And boom, reality just slaps them both with a huge "your siblings now" twist. They each have their own rooms and Karin 2 seems to take it in stride, accepting her new little sister status, while the other Karin is still processing this bizarre fate. But this whole situation raises way too many questions, but both of them have no clue. The charm pops up, explaining the situation to the Karens in the most low-key way possible. Obviously, if they were one person before, now they're two parts of a whole, yada yada. It's throwing logic at them, but Yu's clearly the one sweating bullets. Both Karens blush, and Yu wonders how he's managed to stumble into a situation where his own awkward feelings have caused two girls to react like they're on some kind of reality TV dating show. Karin 1 asks why the charm didn't mention any of this sooner, but he casually replies that they didn't ask. Meanwhile, Yu can only sigh and ask if they're okay with the change. Both girls beam and practically high-five each other, announcing that it's going to be a blast. Yu just sighs in relief, grateful they're not holding this reality-warping mess against him. Somehow, Karin 1 lets slip that Yu might want to come over if he's waiting for her answer to a little confession he made earlier. He and Karin 2 practically freeze like deer in headlights. She shoots Karin 1 a "you're kidding me" look, but Karin 1 shrugs it off, saying she couldn't keep a lid on it forever. Yu is still trying to process that he's got plans with both of them after school, like he accidentally RSVP'd to 2 dates and is just now realizing he's double booked. Once they leave school, he realizes he doesn't even have their contact info. Typical. Karin 2 offers hers while Karin 1 complains about the inconvenience of sharing the exact same name. Karin 2 laughs, saying nicknames are the way to go. Suddenly inspired, Yu names Karin 1 Himika, leaning into her princess-like aura, while Karin 2 is Galka, to capture her effortless, cool girl vibe. The two Karens burst into laughter, loving it. He just hopes he remembers who's who, because honestly, he's still getting used to there being two of them. Once they reach the house, Mom waves them in, probably wondering if she should set an extra place at the dinner table just in case a third Karen pops out of nowhere. Yu bows politely, feeling like he's about to go on the most nerve-wracking field trip of his life. As they climb the stairs, Yu's heart is practically leaping out of his chest. He's in uncharted territory here. He's actually at a girl's house. His mind starts running 100 miles per hour as he tries to process that he's stepping into not just one, but technically two girls' rooms. The stakes get so high that he's practically wondering if he should have brought a survival kit. Himeka shows him her room, and Yu steps in, wide-eyed, taking in the whole girls' room vibe. It's like he's stumbled onto an alien planet. Galka smirks and teases Himeka, saying the place is suspiciously clean, like it's been vacuumed within an inch of its life. Himeka, smug as ever, announces that she knows her way around a vacuum like she's declaring herself some kind of household superhero. Galka just rolls her eyes and heads for the exit, clearly amused that Yu's now dealing with Himeka's princess routine. Now, it's just Yu and Himeka in the room, and you can practically see Yu's brain stalling out. It's like his mind has hit the blue screen of death. He's dreamed about this forever, and now he's actually standing here. Himeka just gives him a bright, straightforward smile and tells him she accepts his confession. No hesitation, no build-up, just yep, I'm in. Yu's so shocked, he almost looks behind him like there's a camera crew ready to jump out and yell, surprise. As she explains how his actions have proven he's serious, Yu's face is practically a shade of red that's about to hit emergency alert level. She even leans in close, telling him he'd better be ready to take responsibility, and he can only nod, hoping he doesn't just pass out right there. Himeka, unbothered, laughs, saying that she wants to hear him say he loves her again and even wants him to carry her, like she's just thrown out the highest level boyfriend achievement badge, and he's got to earn it. Yu, officially out of his mind, scoops her up in his arms, saying, I love you, like he's just scored the game-winning point in the world's most dramatic romance match. She blushes, calling him eager, and he can only grin, telling her that he's been holding these feelings for 10 years. Outside the room, Galka listens, probably rolling her eyes like, oh, they're really going all in on this. Then, with a sly grin, she leans close, asking Yu for one more request. She whispers something in his ear, and he nearly jumps out of his skin. Whatever she said shatters his calm, leaving him torn between excitement and panic. After all, it's hard to stay cool when you're suddenly living your wildest dreams. He stumbles out of the room and sees Galka standing there, quiet and serious, a sight about as rare as a flying pig. He feels a bit of a cold sweat coming on because if Galka's serious, things are probably about to get intense. She begins confessing how happy his heartfelt words made her yesterday, but watching him with Himeka today made her feel a bit, well, jealous. It's like trying to enjoy pizza when there's chocolate cake next to it. She wants it all. As Yu takes this in, still mentally loading like a slow computer, Galka suddenly slams him against the wall with a "you have to pick me" intensity that makes him feel like he's in a really low-budget soap opera. But before he can faint from the sheer energy of it all, she stumbles and apologizes, realizing she might have gone just a little overboard. He quickly reassures her with a smile, like a guy who's accidentally brought way too many roses on a first date. In a move that could only be described as over-the-top nerdy, he calls Himeka outside and then pulls out his secret weapon, a schedule. Not just any schedule, but an all-nighter crafted, library-researched, down-to-the-minute timeline for spending equal time with each of them. Galka gapes, impressed but also amused, and probably wondering if she's dating a human or a sentient spreadsheet. Yu, sleep-deprived but proud, explains that he stayed up reading scheduling manuals and chugging coffee just to make sure they both felt like his number one. Just as he's finishing his explanation, exhaustion slams into him like a freight train, and he sways, his brain sending up a giant, low-battery warning. Before he knows it, he's in a semi-conscious blur and realizes that both Karens have somehow turned into his personal headrests. He's lying in their laps, enjoying the moment and making ridiculous vows to never wash his hair again, like a man who's just discovered the meaning of life. The Karens look at him with a mix of pity and "this boy needs help," reminding him gently that no one's impressed by unwashed hair. After a quick recovery, and enough blushing to fuel a small fire, he says his goodbyes, turning to leave. But Galka, shy and fidgety, calls him back for a goodbye hug because, hey, that's what you do when your official relationship starts, right? Use heart somersaults as they lean in, only for Himeka to join in like a third wheel who absolutely refuses to be left out. So he throws his arms around both of them, promising unlimited hugs, like some overenthusiastic hug dealer. The next day in class, Yu reflects on the charm's split personality effect and wonders if there might be even more Karens hiding out there, like a surprise multi-pack. Galka seems excited at the idea, practically hoping there's an entire band of Karens waiting to join the lineup. Himeka, on the other hand, is a little unenthusiastic and tells them to wait until the next one arrives. Just then, the teacher walks in with a surprise announcement: a new student is going to join them today. Yu and the Karens exchange a look. Oh no, not another one. Their fears are confirmed when the new girl introduces herself as Karin Machihashi, leaving them to wonder if they're trapped in an endless loop of Karin clones. Yu remembers a moment from his past, standing in his secret spot with little Karin. She had casually brushed off worries about others avoiding her, saying it would be way too much hassle to stress over something like that. Her carefree attitude left Yu both impressed and puzzled. Where did this unshakable confidence come from? Back then, that admiration quickly morphed into something more. Now, the question floating around is, there's lazy, optimistic, and what would that make the third one? Fast forward to the present, and yet another version of Karin enters the scene, visibly nervous as she introduces herself, looking like she's about to apologize just for existing. Yu's thoughts spiral as he realizes, yep, this is officially the third Karin to show up in just 2 days. The teacher casually directs her to an empty seat in the back, though she apologetically mumbles that she wouldn't want to get in the way by sitting too close. As Yu nervously approaches to say hi, hoping she remembers him, Karin number 3 takes one look, gives him the dew eyes, and then bolts out of the room like she's seen a ghost, leaving him totally baffled. Meanwhile, the other two Karens, the original 2 pieces of the Karin puzzle, decide it's time to step in. They march up to her, each introducing herself with flair as if they're auditioning for the part of Karin but different. The new Karin, barely processing that there are 2 more of her, drops to her knees and starts apologizing profusely, as though they're collecting a debt she can't pay. The other 2 Karens assure her that they're not after her lunch money or anything suspicious, which doesn't exactly calm her nerves. As Yu watches this absurdly surreal reunion unfold, he realizes that Karin number 3 is likely thinking the whole situation is way too bizarre to be true. The original 2 Karens, trying to break it down for her in the simplest terms, enthusiastically explain that they're all just different sides of the same person. Karin number 3 stares at them in disbelief, looking like she's on the edge of a nervous breakdown. Watching from the doorway, she overhears classmates gossiping about how close Yu is with the Machihashis. She seems to shrink even more, wondering if she really belongs in this strange class. That's when Yu pops up beside her, offering to walk her to the next class. She hesitates, clearly wondering if she's about to be dragged into some epic maze, but Yu insists it's all straightforward. Despite her reluctance, he tags along, musing on how different this Karin feels, more guarded, less confident. He silently notes that, yeah, he might actually be falling for all these new sides of Karin, but he sure didn't expect it to feel like solving a Rubik's Cube. Trying to lighten the mood, Karin number 3 offers him a handful of coins and money, like he is some beggar on signal, which only leaves him completely perplexed. Yu reassures her, grateful just to be talking to her again, which somehow makes her cheeks glow with the faintest blush. But as he reminisces about their childhood friendship, hinting at how she's changed since then, Karin suddenly stiffens. She thinks he must be disappointed, feeling that she's lost her carefree charm, and her eyes well up as she quietly admits that she can't trust people the way she used to. Before he can stop her, she dashes away once more, leaving him standing there, confused and wondering what on earth just happened. Back in class, Karin number 3 sits alone, clutching a little charm with a wistful look. As Yu returns to the group, Himeka and Galka jump right in with expectant looks, but his face says it all. Things with Karin didn't go as planned. Galka sighs dramatically like some wise sage and mutters that maybe it's time to just let Karin be. But Yu, suddenly feeling like a hero in an overly dramatic romance, springs to his feet with a fiery resolve. There's no way he's giving up on Karin that easily. The charm reminds him with all the gentle persistence of a parent who's explained the same rule for the 100th time, that whichever Karin he doesn't choose will disappear. Yu must lay his heart on the line, and Karin has to fully accept his feelings. No halfway, no maybe someday. Galka gives Yu a flat look, as if to say, "Are you sure she's actually accepted all this yet?" With a sigh he realizes he was right about one thing. He's always loved Karin, and he's not about to back down now, even if it's starting to feel like he's trying to win over 3 stubborn cats. He recalls that moment with her. Painful, yes, but he's committed. Karin looked hurt, and all he wanted to do was help ease her pain, even if he had to return 100 favors. So gathering every ounce of courage, he practically shouts his vow to make it up to her. Himeka and Galka, moved by his filmy style, grab him and tell him that it's them he's been trying to save all along. With an awkward but heartfelt hug, Yu thanks them, declaring his love. They in turn reassure him, with maybe a pinch of sarcasm, that they love him too. Galka adds that if he were talking about any other girl, well, let's just say things wouldn't be nearly as cute and cuddly. Just then, Charm drops a casual reminder. Time's ticking, and tomorrow after school is the deadline. Determined, Yu is ready to face it, and goes off to confront the third Karin, who dashes away the moment she spots him. Yu realizes cornering her and lecturing her probably isn't the best approach. He needs a real, genuine heart-to-heart. So he asks Himeka and Galka to hang tight while he tries to work things out. Meanwhile, Karin is walking to her home looking too sad and gloomy, replaying the whole thing in her mind. She's stunned by Yu's transformation. He's become so much more upbeat and easy to talk to, not to mention his newfound popularity. She recalls their encounter and can't shake the thought of how much taller he's grown. As memories of their past together flicker back, she throws herself onto her couch in frustration, almost in disbelief. Of course, the Yu who came looking would expect to find the old Karin, not the mess she feels like now. She's sure he wouldn't want to meet this gloomier, self-dubbing version of herself. Her thoughts drift back to those days right after she and Yu had drifted apart. She remembers herself as this bright, confident girl, always wanting to play outside, blissfully unaware of her friends' preferences to stay indoors. She recalls how they whispered about her, clearly preferring to stick with their indoor plans. And just like that, her heart sank back then, and it's been sinking ever since. Since that day, she hasn't been able to shake her doubts, always second-guessing if people really mean what they say. Now, in a bittersweet moment of self-pity, Karin laughs at herself. She doesn't have a clue what people truly think, calling herself an emotional mess of baggage no one needs. Maybe, she muses, it's better if she stays away from Yu, if only for his sake. But deep down, she can't ignore her wish to be friends with him again, even if it feels like a pipe dream. Suddenly, Galka bursts into her room, snapping Karin out of her spiraling thoughts and giving her a solid scare. She freaks out, having completely forgotten about their shared space. Karin just stares wide-eyed with a look of shock. She is having a mini crisis after her classmate catches her talking to her stuffed animals in her room. The shock on her face is pretty intense, and she stammers, trying to explain herself but only getting more flustered. She wonders if the confusion is because of their shared last name. Meanwhile, Himeka, standing there as calm as ever, realizes they all live in the same house. It takes her a second to process that, but she quickly pulls herself together. Karin's all over the place, awkwardly trying to explain herself, but Himeka's not having any of it. She calmly suggests they sit down for tea, which is probably the most composed thing anyone could suggest in this situation. As they sip their tea, she starts spilling all the beans about their shared past. Karin's a bit stunned at first, hearing that they really did split off from the same person. She didn't think Himeka was being honest back at school. But well, here they are. Himeka, in her usual laid-back way, mentions how they both used to get shut out by the other girls in class. Karin's eyes go wide. Did she just say that? Yeah, she did, and she is not sorry about it. She even reminisces about how the other girls could have just said they wanted to play inside instead of gossiping behind her back. That's when Karin starts getting really self-conscious about the whole thing, thinking it's her fault for being selfish. But Himeka, cool as ever, tells her it might be better to confront things head-on. Karin's not buying it though, and stubbornly insists she's better off alone. Himeka smirks, calling her out for lying to herself, and she smugly admits that she is also a version of her. Himeka is the chilled-out one, whereas Karin is the doubtful one. They may have the same memories, but their reactions couldn't be more different. Himeka brushes off Karin's concerns, believing that Yu would agree with her. Karin, however, isn't convinced and still feels all sorts of ways about the conversation. Himeka, cool as a cucumber, attributes her unwavering confidence to self-love and the love she receives in return. The next day, Himeka, in a rare moment of humility, apologizes for barging into Karin's room. Yu's also feeling bad about the whole thing, forgetting the whole house-sharing situation too. Gelka jumps in to add her 2 cents about dinner being dramatic, but Yu stops her. He wants to talk to Karin himself, but with a little more tact. He's got to make sure his words come out right. After all, he doesn't want to mess this up. Yu heads straight to Karin's room, but she's about to bolt as soon as she sees him. However, he quickly says sorry for the previous day, admitting he hadn't really been thinking about how it all affected her. He asks for another chance and invites her to meet him later at the park on the hill they used to visit. Karin just stares at him in silence, but he's already set his mind on it, so he heads to the park to wait. When Karin finally shows up, Yu's all ready to greet her. He's practically bouncing in excitement, asking if she wants juice or coffee. After a quick exchange, he starts rambling about how he's been thinking about yesterday nonstop. Apparently, their first meeting after so long really got to him. He never told her anything about himself, and now, well, here they are. He starts apologizing for not asking for her phone number when she left town as a kid, and now, surprise, there are 2 of her. It's confusing, and it makes no sense, but he doesn't care. He just wants to stay with both of them. Yu continues with all this nonsense, declaring his love for everything about Karin, her cute sleeves, her glasses, even her sheepishness. Karin's just standing there, wide-eyed and in shock. He finally finishes with a dramatic flourish, and Karin quietly responds with something about how she's changed since they were kids. But Yu, not missing a beat, just shrugs and says there's even more to love about her now. It's a lot to take in, and Karin's left speechless for a moment. Yu then asks her how she feels, but Karin's struggling with her emotions. She's recalling Himeka's words about not trusting them, and all of a sudden she feels frustrated and overwhelmed, unable to say what's really going on in her head. But Yu, ever the weirdo and not ready to back off, pulls out a bear costume and throws it on, trying to lessen her nervousness. She looks at him with a frustrated but amused expression, mumbling that she has an easier time talking to stuffed animals than real people. He can't help but smirk, pointing out that he's not a stuffed toy. He's more of a walking, talking mascot costume. Nah bro, you're just looking like a fool. He gets excited, jumping around like a kangaroo, and happy to be with her, enjoying his form. But she cringes, asking him not to start with that overly energetic nonsense. It's just too much. Feeling a bit embarrassed, she suddenly goes quiet. Then she opens up, and her voice becomes a bit softer. She talks about how, a long time ago, people she thought were her friends started gossiping behind her back. It crushed her, and ever since she's found it hard to understand how others feel, or even how she feels. She's been carrying that weight for a long time, and the only way she knows how to communicate now is like this, through walls and awkwardness. But deep down, she knows it's not healthy, and she can't keep hiding from it. Yu, ever the optimist, looks at her and laughs. He tells her it's cute, just like her. She's like a puppet giving life to a stuffed animal. He'd never seen anyone make a stuffed toy so animated before. But Karin, still serious, isn't having it. She can't trust Yu's words. Yu, however, shrugs it off, telling her that maybe she doesn't need to trust anything, him, herself, or anything else. But what he wants her to know is that she's changed. There are parts of her that are uniquely hers, things she's chosen for herself, and that's something he sees. Still, in her tough girl style, she jumps up, tears welling in her eyes, insisting that she can't trust his love or anything he's saying. Everything just feels so confusing to her. She wants to trust him, to believe in what he says and how he feels, but the fear is too much. With trembling hands, she reaches for his, and he can only nod with tears of his own. It's a moment of vulnerability they both share, but it's also full of hope. Hope that they can keep moving forward together. The next day, the 4 of them are together again, greeting each other with warmth. Karin, still a little nervous, stares at them, completely clueless about what's going on, but then she excitedly steps forward to greet him with a cheerful good morning. The other two Karens can't help but grin, clearly excited. But wait, could this really be the end? Who knows, maybe there'll be a fourth and fifth Karen, or even more, each one adding a new twist.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.